Did you know that 90% of our relationship patterns are set before we can even speak? Today, we're exploring how those early bonds shape every connection we make and why it's never too late to change them.
That's such a powerful statistic. It really makes you think about how much of our adult behavior stems from those first few years.
Well, what's fascinating is how these patterns become our emotional operating system. Think of it like installing software, except this software was chosen for us based on our earliest experiences.
So how exactly does this programming happen?
It's actually quite remarkable. When babies interact with their caregivers, their brains are literally building neural pathways. Recent studies show that consistent, loving responses create entirely different brain architecture than inconsistent or minimal care.
Hmm, that sounds pretty deterministic. Are we just stuck with whatever attachment style we developed?
Oh no, and this is where it gets exciting. Research shows our brains maintain plasticity throughout our lives. A 2019 study found that about 25% of people actually change their attachment style over a 4 year period.
Well, that's encouraging news for anyone who's struggling with relationship patterns.
Exactly. Let's break down these patterns. The research identifies four main attachment styles, and here's what's interesting. They're not evenly distributed in the population.
How do the numbers break down?
So, about 50% of people have secure attachment. They're comfortable with both intimacy and independence. Then, roughly 20% have anxious attachment, 25% have avoidant attachment, and about 5% have fearful avoidant patterns.
Those numbers really put things in perspective. Could you explain what these different styles look like in real life?
Well, think of it like this. Secure people are like well anchored boats. They can weather relationship storms without feeling like they're going to sink. Recent studies show they have lower cortisol levels during conflict and recover from arguments faster.
That makes so much sense. They've learned that relationships can handle some turbulence.
Exactly right. Now, anxiously attached people are more like weather vanes, highly sensitive to any shift in the emotional atmosphere. They tend to have higher levels of relationship anxiety and can experience up to 3 times more stress during partner conflicts.
And what about the avoidance style? I'm guessing they're more like emotional fortresses?
That's actually a perfect metaphor. Studies show avoidant individuals typically maintain higher levels of emotional distance. On average, they share 30% less personal information with partners compared to secure individuals.
So what happens when these different styles interact with each other?
Oh, this is where it gets really interesting. Research shows that anxious and avoidant people often attract each other, creating what therapists call the pursuit withdrawal dance. One study found these pairings have a 60% higher rate of relationship conflict.
Sounds like a recipe for drama, but I'm guessing there's hope.
Absolutely. Recent research in neuroplasticity shows that consistent positive relationships can actually rewire our attachment patterns. One study found that people who maintain stable relationships for at least 2 years show measurable changes in their attachment security.
What are some practical steps people can take to work on this?
Well, mindfulness practices have shown promising results. One study found that people who practiced mindfulness for 8 weeks showed a 20% increase in secure attachment behaviors. But the most powerful factor is actually having relationships with secure people.
Like emotional co-regulation?
Precisely. When we interact with secure individuals, our nervous systems literally sync up with theirs over time. It's called biological synchrony, and it's been observed in brain imaging studies.
That's incredible. Our relationships are literally rewiring our brains.
And here's what I find most hopeful. Studies show that even people with significant attachment wounds can develop earned secure attachment through conscious work and healthy relationships.
What's the timeline for that kind of change?
Research suggests meaningful shifts can happen in as little as 6 to 12 months of consistent work, whether that's through therapy, conscious relationships, or both. The key is creating new experiences that challenge our old beliefs about relationships.
This has been such an enlightening discussion about how we can actually change these deep-seated patterns.
Well, I hope it helps our listeners understand that while our past shapes us, it doesn't have to define our future. With awareness and the right support, we can all move toward more secure ways of connecting.